Well, hey, good morning. How you guys doing? Fantastic, beautiful day. And we are kicking off this brand new series, Talking to the Ceiling, that I'm really excited about, a series about prayer. And I'm excited for this series because there are actually few things in life in this world that are more common than prayer. Polls repeatedly show almost everybody prays sometime for something. Even people who consider themselves maybe more agnostic or atheists, not even sure what they believe, many of them admit, yeah, sometimes I pray, like to whom it may be concerned. People of every religion, every spiritual persuasion of every culture throughout history have prayed in some way or another. It is like the most basic spiritual practice and probably just one of the most common things that human beings do. But at the same time, there are few things more confusing than prayer. Like, what's it all about? And I've had people say, like, I don't know what to say when I pray. I never feel like I know what to say. And should I even be bothering God with my stuff? Like, is that kind of selfish? I mean, doesn't he have bigger fish to fry? Like, doesn't he have more important things to do than to help me with my thing? And if there is a God, here's the thing. Doesn't he already know what he wants to do? Doesn't he already know what he's gonna do? What difference does it make if if I ask him to do something, he's just gonna do what he wants to do, what he's gonna do, right? And a lot of times when I pray, it just feels like nothing happens. Like I don't feel anything. I don't feel like I get anything out of it. And honestly, it's like it seems like it doesn't even make a difference. Sometimes it feels like my prayers don't go any further than the ceiling of my room. Kind of like the family that was sitting down for dinner one night, and their family practice was to pray before they ate. And so as they reached their hands around the table, the father was about to say grace, as that's sometimes called, and his little 4-year-old daughter spoke up and said, "Daddy, tonight, can I be the one that talks to our plates?" And sometimes few things are more common and few things are more confusing when you think about it than prayer. So one day, Jesus' disciples, like his inner circle, they're watching Jesus pray. They're listening to Jesus pray. And it's not the first time that they've seen him pray. They've heard him pray often. They've watched him go off sometimes for hours in prayer. In fact, prayer, think about this, prayer, according to all 4 biographies of Jesus' life that come out of the first century world, prayer was like a constant practice for Jesus, which in and of itself should kind of joggle our ideas about what prayer really is. But this time, after watching and listening to him, they ask him, Lord, can you teach us how to do that? Can you teach us how to do that thing you were just doing? Can you teach us how to pray? That watching Jesus pray, it somehow drew them in. It provoked them. It made them realize that there was something that they needed to learn about prayer, which is interesting because these young men had been doing it their entire lives. Their entire lives, they had been taught as the youngest of children to pray. They'd grown up around prayer. Most devout Jewish people in this era, they prayed all the time. They had set times of prayer 3 times a day. They stopped everything to pray. They prayed the Shema from Deuteronomy 6. They prayed the Kaddish, this ancient Aramaic prayer. They prayed the Amidah, the 18 blessings. They prayed the Psalms. Many of them would have large swaths, if not the entire collection of the Psalms, this ancient book of hymns and prayers and songs memorized, and they would pray those, and they had grown up in a context where everybody prayed. Everybody prayed. It was all around them, but there was something about Jesus. There was something about the way Jesus prayed that left them thinking, I'm not really sure we know what we're doing. I'm not sure we're doing this right. Like, I think we still have a lot to learn about prayer. Jesus, can you teach us to do that? Can you teach us to pray? And you think about that request, when you think about it, it's kind of an odd request, am I right? Like, I don't know if that's something you've ever thought you would ever ask anyone or thought you even need to learn how to do. Like, it's just prayer. Like, how complicated can it be? Like, can you imagine if somebody heard you pray and when you finished, they came up to you and said, hey, can I give you a few pointers? Because, like, what? Like, I was listening to you pray, like, for the meal or, like, at Life Group, and you're not doing it right. Like, let's grab some coffee and maybe I could teach you how to pray. Like that, how strange would that be? Now, a quick disclaimer, because this needs to be said before we go further. On the one hand, there really aren't any wrong ways to pray. There really aren't. There are so many different kinds of prayers, different kinds of different ways of praying and talking to God. There are care casting prayers. In fact, Peter, one of Jesus' earliest followers, wrote in a letter, cast all your cares on him. He cares, like, just take that load and dump it on him. There are emotion venting prayers. The Psalms are full of those. Anger, frustration, confusion, joy, just unleashing that. Need listing prayers. A lot of us do that. Shopping list prayers. And then there's this, and then there's that. Crisis managing prayers. Oh, God, help me, help me, help me, help me. Help me get out of this. Gratitude expressing prayers. There are guidance seeking prayers and heart cleansing prayers and pattern repeating prayers like the Shema or the Lord's Prayer or the Rosary. There are pattern repeating prayers, will centering prayers, on it goes. And none of these are necessarily wrong ways of praying, but there are perhaps better ways of praying. And Jesus' disciples, they hear Jesus pray, and they sense that maybe there's a better way to pray than the way they've been praying. So let's begin today and actually begin this series where we're going over the next few weeks with a working definition of this kind of prayer. That prayer is talking with God. Prayer is talking with God. Now, right away, something may stand out to you about that description or definition. The preposition right here, with, right? Like not just talking to God, like it's a one-way thing, certainly not talking at God, an impersonal thing, but talking with God. And talking with somebody, that's a little different than talking to them or at them, am I right? I mean, we all know the feeling of having someone just talking to us is like this monologue, and we really don't even need to be there because it's just like, yeah, They're just talking to us, or even worse, talking at us. But with changes that. With is relational, even, dare I say, conversational, but is that a thing that happens with God? And so Jesus' disciples ask him, Lord, can you teach us how to do what you do, the way that you do that? Can you teach us how to pray? And Jesus answers, here's his response. He says, when you pray, say, Father, or in another, actually more popular version of this prayer, our Father. Father. Now, don't move past that first word too quickly, because at the very beginning of Jesus teaching us how to pray, he is trying to reshape, always, by the way, trying to reshape with his words, with his teachings, but even much more with his actions, with his mannerisms, with his vibe, his way of being, trying to reshape our idea of God. Trying to reshape how we think about God and how we think about relating to and with God, and what it means to live not just as the creations of God and not just as the subjects of God, or certainly not the slaves or the puppets or the minions of God. By the way, do not miss next week, part 2 of the series. But how to relate as the offspring, the actual children of God in this world that he has made, and how to relate to each other and to God as his children, his sons and his daughters. And Jesus himself, for himself, consistently, in fact, almost solely addressed God as Father, as his Father. In fact, you'll be hard-pressed to find a time that Jesus ever refers to or speaks to God and does not refer to him as his Father, or literally his Abba. And that, by the way, was fairly unique in Jesus' world, in Jesus' day. And there are only about a dozen times in the entire Hebrew Scriptures, in the entire what we would refer to sometimes as the Old Testament, where God is referred to as Father, usually as a metaphor. He's like a father, or as a father, so too God. And in fact, the intimacy and the frequency with which Jesus talked about God like this, referred to him constantly, spoke of him as my Father, the Creator God, the Almighty, my Father. It seemed scandalous to many people. It seemed like it was too intimate, like too personal, too familiar. And Jesus, as he's teaching his disciples how to pray, he takes his relationship with his Father, like this father-son relationship that was his very own, and he invites and he includes every single one of us into it. And this is essential, that for prayer, Jesus begins not just with how-tos, but who-tos, with relationship, with recognizing what I'm actually being invited into, this relationship with our Father, that prayer is actually fundamentally relational, not transactional. True prayer, certainly prayer Jesus' way, is fundamentally relational, not transactional, not trying to get something from, but learning how to be with and relate with. And it becomes clear that at the heart of how Jesus prayed was his sense of what relationship meant, a securely attached, closely connected, love-filled, interactive, constant conversational relationship with his Father, whom he referred to with the Aramaic term Abba. My Father, my Abba. And there's a great scene, by the way, that illustrates this right here. In John's biography of Jesus' life, John chapter 5 is where it is, and if you have a Bible, you can turn there. It's one of my favorite, all-time favorite stories of Jesus. Read the whole chapter yourself when you get home, or you can do it right now on your phone if you want to scroll it. But here's how it goes. Jesus is walking past this ancient pool in the city of Jerusalem. Don't think a swimming pool. Think a large, open, like ancient baths, just below the temple grounds in the city of Jerusalem, and it's surrounded by this plaza that's filled with broken people, just like littered, just messed up, broken, like the people who are really desperate. And Jesus is walking by this place, and he sees a man, and he finds out the man's been like that for 38 years, has been coming to this pool, being brought there, taken there, and laid there in hopes of being healed. He walks up to the man. There's a conversation. The conversation in and of itself is actually pretty interesting. And then he heals the man. He tells him to pick up his mat and go. And the man does. He picks up his mat and he walks. But John adds this little detail in his biography. Oh, by the way, did I forget to tell you? It happened to be the day that happened, it was a Sabbath. It was the Shabbat. It was like this day of rest where no work was allowed, which, by the way, is a really cool idea. I love the idea. But when the temple leaders in Jerusalem, they see this guy carrying a mat, he's like walking along, they're like, that's work, by the way. Hey, that guy's working. And they confront him. They find out that Jesus actually cured the guy, which is also work, and told him to carry a mat, double work. And so they come after Jesus to scold him, to reprimand him. And here is Jesus' response, and this is so profound. In his defense, Jesus said to them, My Father is always at his work to this very day. Now, in this moment, Jesus is entering into a common debate among rabbis and theological thinkers in his day about the Sabbath. And the debate went like this. Again, the ancient creation story, some of you are familiar with the opening story of the Hebrew Scriptures. God creates everything in 6 days, and then he rests on the Sabbath day. He takes Shabbat, he takes the Sabbath. And so the debate is, okay, so does God actually, like, literally stop all work on the Sabbath? And if so, like, who's keeping the universe running while God takes a day off? Does God actually take a day off? And so Jesus is weighing in on this debate about the Sabbath, and his answer is, God is always working, only he doesn't say God. He says, my Father. My Father is always working. He's always working. He's always up to something. He's always up to something. He's always up to something good. And this was a fundamental assumption for Jesus as he operated. The Father is always active. The Father's doing something here. Hey, I'm walking by this pool. The Father's active. The Father's always at work. The Father is always doing something, and therefore, so am I. And he adds this, and then he adds this line. He says, very truly I tell you, the Son, speaking of himself, can do nothing by himself. Jesus is like, let me tell you what this relationship with my Father is like. I do nothing on my own, ever. Can you imagine saying that? I do nothing just off on my own, just kind of do it. I never do anything by myself. I only do what I see the Father doing. And I love this. I love this moment, because in this moment, it's like Jesus is giving us this personal window into his own extraordinary life. And he summarizes his whole everyday, every moment of the day experience like this. He says, point one, the Father is always working, always up to something, and always up to something good. That's what I know. The Father's always working. He's always up to something good. So this is what it's like for me. I just go through my day, my whole day, watching to see what the Father is doing. I go through all my whole day mindful, listening, watching in this constant connection and responsiveness to my Father, who is always up to something, looking to see, listening to hear what he might be up to. And when I see what the Father is up to, well, I just jump in and I do it with him. When I see what the Father's doing, I jump in and do it with him. And what he's describing here is this moment by moment, constantly connected, interactive relationship with the Creator of all things, who is his Father, whom he goes on to say again and again and again is your Father and our Father, inviting us into that same relationship, that same dynamic that he himself lives with. And prayer for Jesus was the way that played out all day long, every day. The means through which he did that, constantly talking with his Father about what they were doing together and what they were going to do together. And so now at this point, we need to build on or add on to our working definition of what prayer is. That prayer is talking with God, our Father, but not just talking with God, but especially talking with God about what we're doing together, what he and I are doing together. And prayer is an invitation into this co-laboring, partnering relationship with our Father in our world, his representatives in our world, just as Jesus himself experienced. Don't miss next week, part 2 of the series. Now, here's a question. Would thinking like that maybe change the way you pray? Would thinking like that maybe change the way you pray about something you're praying about? And at the end of his life, Jesus told his students that this was exactly his intent for them. In fact, back to John's biography, one of the final sections, a large section in John 13 through 17, is this extended scene taking us through Jesus' last night with his students. It starts with their final meal. They're in the city of Jerusalem. He washes their feet, another famous scene, crawling around on the floor with a towel, showing them what love actually looks like, talking to them about what's going to happen to him, what's about to happen. And there's this theme that gets repeated again and again through that whole section, that just as Jesus was in the Father and the Father was in him, there was a oneness to their relationship, that we would be in them and we would be one with them and they with us, and then that would flow out into authentic love for one another and utter trust in God and responsiveness to him as the Spirit of truth leads us and guides us further into what he has for us. And at one point during that night, he gives them an illustration of this. They've left the city of Jerusalem and the meal at this point, and they're passing through the Kidron Valley and through some vineyards. And it's like he wants them to get this. He wants us to get this, to really get it. And so he stops as they're walking. Apparently, he grabs one of the branches that's shooting off of a vine, and he goes, guys, it's just like this, okay? It's just like this. This kind of constant connection and flow, that just as the unbroken connection to the life and the sap of the vine is essential to the life and the vitality and the fruitfulness of the branch, that's you. Get it? Get it? Like that's what this kind of life, this kind of spiritual life that I've been, this real thriving life as the images of God in the world, living in, like this is what it's like. It's as simple as that we were created for a life that's constantly connected to the life and the flow of our Heavenly Father, created to live our lives in moment by moment, interactive connection with and responsiveness to God. We were created to live our lives in moment by moment, interactive connection and responsiveness to God, which raises a question. Is that even possible? Can people actually do that? Like for normal, just messed up, busy people like us to actually go through life that way, that same kind of constant connection and responsiveness that Jesus himself has, that he depicts like in this metaphor. Well, no one in modern history better exemplifies this for me than a man named Frank Laubach. Now, for the first 45 years of his life, Frank Laubach lived a pretty average life. He was a good person. He was a Christian. He was a teacher. He was actually a missionary. He had just moved to a remote part of the Philippines to live and work. And yet, on the day of his 46th birthday, sitting on a hill behind his small shack overlooking a bay, he wrote this in his journal. I no longer have the sense that life is all before me, as I had just a few years ago. How many of you can relate to that? Some of it is behind me, and a miserable, poor part it is, so far below what I had dreamed that I dare not even think of it, nor dare I think much about the future. This present moment, if it is full of God, is the only refuge I have from poisonous disappointments. Like, ouch. I'm talking about your midlife crisis, and some of you are like, yeah, I don't even want to read that because it makes me think, yeah. But in that year, get this, in 1930, despite the complete disappointment he felt about his life so far, something began to change for him. So much so that over the next 40 years, by 1970, when Laubach passed away, his influence had spread across the entire world. The Encyclopedia Britannica describes him as perhaps the single greatest educator of modern times. He was voted Man of the Year in America in 1952. Within a few years of that day in 1930, he developed the Each One, Teach One literacy program that has been used by over 60 million people worldwide to teach them how to read. He wrote over 50 books, traveled to over 100 countries, and was even honored on a U.S. postage stamp, the only missionary to ever be on a U.S. postage stamp. He became an international influence, outspoken on matters of poverty, injustice, and illiteracy, which he considered to be barriers to world peace. His influence spread to presidents and world leaders, as well as to the most underdeveloped countries of the world. So what happened? What changed? What changed in that year, 1930, for Frank Laubach? Well, in his own words, 1930 was the year that he began an experiment. An experiment, much like the experiment that I'm going to encourage you and challenge you to begin today. 2 years later, he wrote this in his journal. 2 years ago, a profound dissatisfaction, I was like, yeah, we just read that, led me to begin trying to line up my actions with the will of God about every half hour, about every 30 minutes. People told me that was impossible. I judged from what I heard. Few people were even trying that. But this year I started out to live all my waking moments in conscious listening. Conscious listening to the inner voice, asking without ceasing. This is a great question. What, Father, do you desire this minute? In fact, I would love us to read that question out loud together. Will you read it with me? What, Father, do you desire this minute? What do you want? What do you want me to say? What do you want said? What do you want done? What do you want to do with me? What are we doing together? What, Father, do you desire in this moment? It is clear, he adds this line, it is clear that this, it's so true, is exactly what Jesus was doing all day, every day. After 30 days into his experiment, Laubach describes his experience like this. I'm ashamed to confess, after 16 years of being a Christian, I never felt the joy of full willingness like I'm experiencing right now. The sense of cooperation with God, of doing things with God in the little things is what astonishes me. I need something, I turn around to find it. That would be helpful. I must work to be sure, but there is God working along with me. God takes care of all the rest. My part is to live this hour in continuous inner conversation with God in perfect responsiveness to his will to make this hour gloriously rich. That seems to be all I need to think about. So, today, as we kick off the fall, as we kick off like, hey, it's a new school year, it's a new school season, new series, I want to invite you, dare I say, challenge you, or dare I say, dare you. I dare you to join me in this experiment right here. I'm calling it the 30-30 experiment, a 30-day experiment into constant connection and responsiveness to God. Constant connection, communication with, and responsiveness to God. And for the next 30 days, every 30 minutes for 30 days, to keep ourselves connected to God, to try to stay in this continuous, honest, authentic conversation with and responsiveness to God, willing to do what might come next moment by moment. A really simple idea. Simple, but not easy, because we all have a long-standing habit of ignoring God. Pretty much most of the day, most of the minutes of most hours, we all suffer from a very common cognitive malady, spiritual attention deficit disorder, AKA SAD. I myself have been self-diagnosed, right? And I'm not the only one. We live habitually distracted, preoccupied, myopic, short-sighted, what psychologists sometimes refer to as mindlessness, just kind of going through our lives on autopilot, ignoring God, often ignoring the people around us, sometimes intentionally ignoring the people around us, ignoring the moments that are right in front of us, staring at our screen, scrolling for another dopamine hit. It's so sad. It's just so sad, am I right? And because I am so sad, because it goes against my own kind of independent nature, I got this, I'll figure this out, maybe my own self-centered nature to turn Godward instead of selfward and inward, it's going to take time and intentionality and some outside help to establish this new habit of remembering and being reminded to turn our lives towards God, to stay connected, to stay willing. We are going to need some help. And so what we're going to need is something to interrupt us and interrupt throughout the day our habit of ignoring God. So here's what I'm challenging you to do, and I'm serious. Even if you're not sure what you believe about God, even if you're not sure where you're going to take this, I want to invite you into it and actually challenge you to do this during this series for the next 30 days. Step one, get something to interrupt you every 30 minutes for 30 days. You could set your watch to chime or beep. If you have one of these kinds of watches, you could set it to chime or beep at you or chirp at you every 30 minutes. You can set your phone. I have both of them set. You can set your phone. Setting your phone is a little more complicated because it doesn't have the chime feature, but it has reminders, whether you have an iPhone or an Android, a reminder feature. And then it's kind of cool. You can type in what you want your phone to say to you every 30 minutes when it interrupts you, when it reminds you to connect with God. You can put in there like God or your Father's calling or remember, you can put something in there and set that to go off every 30 minutes. And here's what I'd love for you to do. I would love for you to do it right now. Get out your phone. If you're following along, by the way, if you received a program, there's a white sheet of paper in your program that gives you instructions. You can Google this, but I decided to do the work for you because I really want you to do this. So the work is right there. If you're taking notes on the app, I put them in the bottom of the notes for today on the app. How to set your phone to chime, super simple settings, anyway, you'll see it on there. Can't say the word right now. How to do it on the phone, again, a little more complicated, but actually pretty cool. And I would encourage you to actually do it right now. Just pull out if you got one of these phones or if you got I have both of them set, and then my phone reminds my computer, which is awesome. But here's the deal. Get some way of getting interrupted every 30 minutes, something that snaps you out of whatever it is your mind is doing to interrupt you. And then when you're interrupted, I dare you to do these two things. Number one, turn that moment Godward. Set something to interrupt you. And when you get interrupted, just turn that moment Godward. Whatever is going on in your day, whatever's going on in the moment, just take that and turn it Godward. Maybe you're feeling kind of anxious. Maybe you're feeling afraid or happy. Things are great. Maybe you're tired. You're in the middle of a meeting. You're heading to class. You're in a conversation. You're in an argument with your roommate. You're frustrated about something. You're washing dishes. You're putting your kids to bed. You're binging something on TV. Just whatever that is, you get reminded. It pops up on your phone or your watch, and you just take that everyday moment and you have a conversation with your Father about that very thing. Hey, Father, just checking in, watching a little TV right now. Hey, let's think about it this way. You are already having a conversation with yourself all day long about everything that's happening in your day. This is just a moment where you take that conversation and you actually turn it towards your Father and have a conversation with your Father, which I dare say might change the conversation you're having with yourself, which is often very toxic and unhelpful. And then as you turn that moment Godward, this is essential. Ask God to guide you into the next moment. Just ask him, like Jesus. The Father's always active. Hey, you're up to something right now. Hey, you're doing something in this person's life. You're walking by someone on a trail or you're always active. You're always up to something. What is he up to? What's he doing? What does he want to be doing? What does he want to be doing with you? Don't miss next week. And ask him things like, hey, Father, what do you desire in this minute? You remember that prayer that Laubach prayed? What do you desire? Here's what I'm doing. Do you have anything else in mind? Anything you want me to say right now? Anything you want me to do right now? Anything you want to do with me? Anything you want to do together? Is there anything you want me to see? Anyone you want me to notice? Anyone you want me to reach out to? Anyone you want to put on my mind? Anything you want to say to me? Is there anything I need to learn? Is there anyone you want me just to engage and encourage? Do you have anything in this moment? Do you have anything to ask and then listen for a moment? So maybe here's how it could work. Maybe you're at work and you're in a conversation with your boss and your watch goes off or your phone goes off and it's God. It's like, oh. And so you just turn that conversation that you're having, you turn it a little bit Godward while you're having that conversation and you ask God while you're talking, God, is there anything you want out of this conversation? Like, is there anything you want me to hear? Anything I need to take away from this to maybe do my job better, to make you more famous? Because the best thing you can do at work to make God famous is a good job, am I right? And so, like, is there anything you want me to say, any way that you want me to be? And you just turn that Godward. So, true story, there's a guy who was doing the experiment. And he was leaving a meeting with his boss, and his watch went off as he was walking out. And he wrote this to me. He said, my timer just went off, and so I asked God what he wanted me to say, I asked God what he wanted me to take away from the conversation I just had with my boss, and I was immediately reminded of 3 critical pieces of information about 3 of my direct reports that will be good developmental opportunities for them. It's like, what? God doesn't do that, does he? What? Like, have you ever thought about this? That God actually knows more about your job and knows more about your coworkers or your direct reports than you do, and that he actually cares, that he cares for them, cares about you, and maybe actually wants to help? Really? Or maybe as your watch goes off, the reminder goes off, you get interrupted, you become aware of how anxious you're feeling in that moment, like you are stressing about all you have to do and all you don't want to do, and it's too much. And as you breathe real deep and remember that God is right there with you, and he's always active, he's always up to something, you might say, God, what do you want me to do today? What do you want these moments to be about? Because here's the thing, what God wants for you today is never too much for you to actually do. We put way too much on ourselves. Other people might put way too much on ourselves, but God knows time and you so well that his desire for your day is never too much for you to carry, and it is always for your good. It's like, so what do you want me to do? What do I need to focus on? What do I just need to let go of? What do I need to drop? What have I put on myself or others have put on me? How can I just lean into what you want to do together? Show me those parts. Father, I want to do this. I want to do these next few moments with you. I want to just do this with you. Or maybe your watch goes off and your immediate sense is that you're in the middle of thinking something or maybe doing something that's wrong. I don't know, like toxic, unhelpful, harmful. It's not you at your best, and you know it's not what God, your Father, intended for your life. And frankly, you'd really rather not do it with him. It's like, I don't think I can do this with you. And I don't think you want to do it with me. Like, you're not going to be in the middle of this thing that I'm in the middle of right now, as I just want to come uncorked at this person in front of me. Don't stop me, right? And the temptation in those moments is just going to be a hide. Like, shut that stupid watch off, and who dared me to do this? But is it even possible to hide from God in that moment? No. So instead, you take even your failures, even your mess ups, even your misguided moments, and you turn them Godward, and you say, what am I doing here, Father? I mean, part of me doesn't want you to stop me, and then I know this isn't where you want me to be. Thank you. You are so patient. You are so incredibly gracious. Please come and help me. Help me know how to get out of this. Help me know what my next step is. I want to be connected with you. I want to be reconnected with you every 30 minutes. Every 30 minutes, your mind, your day, your thoughts get turned back towards God. As you're interrupted, you turn that moment Godward. You ask for moment guidance, mostly willing to be made willing, responsive, until over time you begin to form this new habit. And you become more and more like that branch that's connected to the life-giving vine, and fruit you never expected begins to grow in your life. So, are you willing? Are you willing? Are you down? Are you willing to give this a try? Even if you did not walk in today thinking you were going to take your spiritual life to another level, are you willing to try and experiment for 30 days? For 30 days. Frank Laubach, 60 days into the experiment, he said this: I find several things happening to me as a result of these 2 months of strenuous effort. And it might feel like strenuous effort to keep the Lord in mind every minute. This concentration on God is hard and strenuous, but everything else has ceased to be. I think more clearly. I forget less frequently. How awesome that would be. Some results may vary. Like, things which I did with a strain before, I now do easily and with no effort whatsoever. I worry about nothing. I lose no sleep. I no longer feel in a hurry about anything. If God is there, the universe is with me. My task is simple and clear. Just one thing. One thing for 30 days. Stay connected, stay willing, stay responsive. Are you willing? Will you take the 30-30 challenge? Will you take the 30-30 challenge with me? Get something to interrupt you. Set it right now. Do it on your way out. If you need help, I will help you. Follow the sheet. It's pretty Google it. You can Google it too. Get something to interrupt you every 30 minutes for 30 days. And every time you're interrupted, every time it goes off, turn that moment Godward. Just go, oh yeah, thank you, Father, for being here with me. Is there anything you want? Is there anything you desire in this moment? And it may be just like, keep on doing what you're doing. Is there anything you desire out of this moment? Is there anyone you want me to be thinking about? Anyone you want me to reach out to? Anything you want me to say? Is there anything you want for this moment right now? And then come back next week for part 2. We are going to address some of those confusions and struggles and problems that we have with prayer. And each week in the series, we're going to take this 30-30 challenge, this 30-30 experiment, and shape it and take it a little bit further. So I hope you'll come back with me. Maybe bring somebody with you who wonders about this whole deal next week. I think you'll get a lot out of it. Let me close this in prayer. And maybe this would be one of those moments where you turn yourself Godward. Even if you're not really sure what you believe about God. And again, people of every stripe will pray and will somehow reach out, and maybe that's where you're at right now. And maybe you're at a place where you'd go, I don't know if this would make any difference at all, but hey, it's 30 days. It's a few moments every 30 minutes. I can do that. Father, I pray that, and I know you're just unique in this way, you're always active. You're always up to something. And you're up to something in every single one of our lives. Different things. We all are at a different place, needing something different from you. I pray that you would meet us all where we're at. I pray that you would speak to us right where we're at right now. And I pray that as we just take some simple steps towards you, we would find a life-filled relationship with you that really does change and breathe heart and soul into the everyday moments of our lives and the trajectory of our lives. And I pray that for each one of us. In Jesus' name, amen.